not going to play it too much, but I just want to basically show you what we've done. So here in this bit, we took the vocal, if I can find that, one sec, because this was quite hard to work on because they only give us the stem with the vocal, the vocoder and the vocal together. So it was very messy to, you know, try and, there it is. It was very messy to try and mix because the vocoder was so harsh. So when we were trying to do the drop and we were using the vocal in the drop, it was hard to get the leads cutting through, and the vocoder was like clashing with the leads. So that was one struggle that we fixed basically. And as you can tell in the drop, it starts with the kick and the snare, which is the standout of the track. So I think they're the most important things with this type of track. When you've got the kick and the snare, you've got to have them sitting right. So I'll just show you the type of kick that I used. I think the most important thing with kicks is it's always finding the right samples. So if you know your sample library, like what I do now is I like make I've got like a folder where it's like all the kicks that I like to use, you know, they're like go-to kicks. I think if you do that when you're producing, it helps a lot because it's just not only time consuming, but it's just easy, you know, like for example here I've got my music production samples, and then straight away I've got Kick Sunstars, which is a pack that the Sunstars, the three producers, sent me, and it's got every kick that I really need here. So I just used a lot of these. They're all in key as well. So as you can see here, this one that I used in this particular track was one that I sampled from Gazland, who's a producer, which is pretty fat kick for the track, but it works well when you add the snares, so that's why I used it. So if you look here, we've got the snares. And straight away, to me, like when I heard that, like it just reminded me of like a festival. So that was the vibe that I wanted to go for, big festival snares. I'll just show you a quick processing on what I do with the snares. So we start off with just a simple snare. There's nothing really interesting about it. It's just all to do with the EQ and in the space that you give them. I like to low cut everything to about 70. Like this one's 120, but that's when I analysed it, the low end, I didn't need it there. So if you listen, all that's just mud in the track. So what I like to try and do to get the mixes clean is just, if I don't need it, just cut it out, because that's just how I like to keep the low end clean. And as again, there's another layer. And on this one, it's got no processing. I mean, I probably, if I wanted to, I probably could cut the low, but I quite like the way that snare was quite heavy and, you know, like kind of messy in a way. And these are just small layers. So as you can see on this one here, we've got some processing. Once again, I cut the lows out of this snare. Cut the lows out. Then I use this. This is a really good plugin. It's from Waves, and I like to use this on like drums. So for those of you that like making techno, like house, whatever, this plugin's really sick for getting like your snares, your hi-hats to really jump out. It's like an EQ, but there's just a certain sound about it. It just really does something good to the track. Then I've got a bit of overdrive on this snare as well, just to fatten it up a bit, an enveloper just to shorten it because it was too long without it. So yeah, that's the snares and the kick, and I mean they play a huge part in any house track, any dance track, festival track, whatever you want to call it, because that's like the key to the track. That's what it's going to get everyone moving really. So then after that, I think in this track the most important thing is probably the bass line, because it drives the track. And as you can see, we've got a lot of basses here. We've got 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. So we've got 9 basses here, which obviously is a pain in the ass to try and mix. But I don't know why there's so many in this one. Normally I like to only stick to like 3 basses, so I like to have like a sub bass, like a low mid bass, and then a high bass, you know, just to give some crunch. So I'll take you through these anyway. So this was the stem bass that was the original bass. We just copied the bass line because the bass line was good. They in the original track, if anyone's heard it before, they went for like a really like dirty, like, you know, EDM type drop. With this one, we wanted to take the idea that they had, but just make it a big melodic drop. So we kept the bass the same and just done some basic processing on it. I'll just take you through some of the processing, so let me just get rid of that. And I'll just mute these so to show you what it sounds like before and after. So yeah, we just cut some of the highs out and shaped it. So as you can see here, I've just got rid of some of the rumble in the low end just so it doesn't clash with the kick. Put a linear EQ just to boost some of the low mids. And then there was some nasty resonance. Like I can still hear some now, to be honest, that I could probably take out. Like, so I like to look at the peaks in tracks, and like I'd recommend this plugin to a lot of producers. This Fab filter, even the bundle itself is amazing. They've got the I use the EQ, which is the Q2, which I'm on now. I use the compressor, the Saturn. The Saturn's like a go-to for like people who are trying to make like aggressive sounds with distortion and stuff, or even if you're trying to saturate your drums, that's like one of the go-to distortion or saturations I use. It's Fab filter bundle. Yeah, it's really good. But the good thing I like about this EQ is like when you can hear resonance and stuff. Sometimes it's quite hard. It plays tricks on you. Like I've been in the studio with some friends and I've been like, "Can none of you hear that sound?" And they're like, "Nah." And then I'll show them using this feature where you can put the headphones, so like you can just hear that frequency. And then once you hear it, your ears just get stuck on it and you can hear it non-stop then. So it's like, if I hear a frequency that I don't like, for example, I'll try and show you now, like, can you hear that? The horrible, like, it's just like a resonance there. So like if I take that out now, to me that already sounds better. So I should have done that when I back in the track, but I'll probably just, you'd always miss something and you can always keep working on tracks, but yeah. And then I just added a bit of an R bass just to give it some like low mids in the 120 area, and then obviously a kickstart just to give it some side chain. So when you add that, this is what it sounds like, and then so it's just ducking beneath the kick. So yeah, that was the stem, and then we've got a sub which is like below that again. So ideally that should have been like low cut a bit more, to be honest though. Anyway, yeah, so then that's like the main, that's like the base of the track, so like that's the low end of the track. And then these basses that I've added here, obviously this is Joey's, these are Joey's basses, the guy who I made the track with, Kamada. He sent me these basses, so we'll play them together. So as you can tell, they're like higher than the low basses. So what they do is they just give it the body, where the low basses give it the real like depth. So if you listen to them together, and then now when I added my basses, these are like the real energy, and like I think there's some highs in there as well. So like it's a case of finding different, like normally like I said, I only normally have three basses, like a low, a mid and a high, but with this one I couldn't get it. It was hard to like try and fill up, so I just had to keep layering until I eventually got it. But altogether the basses, I mean the processing on these, I think there's quite a lot, to be honest, but yeah, like there's nothing too special though. It's just EQs, and that's pretty much it. But then this is the basses together. And like, if you listen to that just with the kick itself, you know that the track's got a lot of energy, so that's what I always like to do. So yeah, that's the kick, snare and the basses. And then, because the vocoder, I need to try and find that, where is it here? The vocoder is so, I think it comes in, here it is, yeah. If you listen to this, it was hard to do anything around the track because of how much space that this took up in the track, so I'll play this quick. And as you can hear, like that's got quite a lot of like stuff going on, so it's very hard to try and like get a lead and stuff to fit around that. So what I've done in this particular track is I literally just compensated for what they had something already, which was like here. Yeah. So like I just kind of compensated for that and just added these strings, which literally just play stabs. But in the whole track together, it just really stood out. So. So that's all I added, and then just at the end a little switch up. But then when you play them over the top of the whole track, it just adds so much. And like another little tip that I would say, and I've been trying to tell like obviously when I'm in the studio with my mates and I'm trying to tell them like when they're saying like how'd you do this or something, I'm trying to tell them now that it might just work for me, but it helps so much if I like watch, because I'm like a visual learner. So if I watch what I'm trying to do, or like say I'm trying to make a track like, you know, for a certain set or someone to play it or a certain vibe, I find it easy if you go on like YouTube and watch, for example, like yesterday I was really like, I was watching Eric Prydz and it was just inspired to do something like Eric Prydz. So I watched like Eric Prydz or Steve Angelo or Swedish House Mafia or whoever you're trying to, like whatever like music taste that you're trying to make. I like to watch their sets and then like, I'll put it on mute sometimes and just have it in, like on an iPad next to you, you know, when you're working or something, because I'm telling you, like, I'm not sad that I know, like, the time. So, like, Eric Prydz, High IB for 8 minutes 28. There's a drop that I like to watch me track, you know, where it's on coming to the drop, and I'll be like, oh, no, it's not good enough yet. It's not good enough yet. And then, like, sometimes you'll watch it, and when it drops and you get goosebumps, that's when you know the track's good enough, you know, to, like, finish, if that makes sense. So that's just a nice little tip I like to do. Like, I'll play the track, and at the same time, as it drops, I'll watch, like, a video of someone who I'm trying to make music and send it to or something, watch their sets and see if it like inspires me enough or whatever. But yeah, I just thought to tell you that because honestly for me it's like changed the way I produce. Like it's something to do with the way I visually look at it, and then I expect the sound to like sound the same level. Do you know what I mean? It's quite good. It's a cool little tip to do, I think. But anyway, I'm not going to stay on this track too long. I'm going to go to Back in Time in a sec, but I'll just quickly play the break here just so you can hear it with the effects. I think that a lot of people these days don't use effects as they should. Like I like to really, when I'm doing a track, I like to make the effects like a film. So if the impact doesn't impact you, it's not a good enough impact, if that makes sense. So I like to spend a lot of time on trying to get the right impacts and stuff. Simple. And there's these claps as well, big festival claps. I'm just quickly going through the layers of what's in a simple breakdown. So I like to fill them up with not as much stuff, because obviously trying to keep your track like less is more. As you can see, the break hasn't got a lot of elements here. But yeah, I just think it's important to get the effects to really impact you, because at the end of the day, that's what effects are supposed to be used for. Do you know what I mean? They're supposed to affect you. So just a quick example of some effects here is like, I'll just show you like the fill I done here, which was, where's the one? So I mean, there's nothing really special about, well, I mean, for me, it's a good effect, and I think like, but there's nothing really professor shit about that. It's just simple fill, and not much processing going on either there, to be honest. In fact, there's hardly any, it's just tuning. I'm going to quickly just go to the Back in Time project because it should be working now. And yeah, the shakers. I'll show you on this one because I think there's more on this one. But I think with like shakers and like hi-hats and that, it's all about it's about like finding the right sample. So it's not so much about the processing because, to be honest, there's only so much you can do with like shakers and hi-hats. I think like obviously you can compress them, EQ them, and like take out some of like the resonance and that. But I think it's more about the actual sample that you find. You know what I mean? Like I think I spend more time changing samples, changing kicks than like EQing them and processing them. Like people will tell you when I'm in the studio. That's one thing I want to say actually for like drums especially. I used to see people using, do you know, Batsy by Native Instruments? I used to see people using that, it's like a Boss sampler. I used to see people using it and I'd be like, oh, nah, it's a waste of time. I'd rather just drag the audio that I want in, do you know what I mean? But once I actually realised what they were doing and I done it myself with the Batsy, it changes the game of producing because like you think that having a kick is just like, oh, I've got that kick, I know it's a good kick, I'll just use that. I made that mistake where I was just using the same kick over and over again in every track, and it was like, I knew it was a good kick and I knew it worked, but there's like certain kicks can change the character of like a track, do you know what I mean? So I think that like now, I don't know, seeing this one, I don't think I did. Now in this one, I've just used audio, and I made this project about 2 years ago. But now what I do in every single track, like I started a new project last night, like just dead simple, but I'll open it up just to show you the difference between like when I made this to now, like what I do different, because I used to just throw it, like for example, I think this kick is just a kick I knew worked. It's like a big kick, which, yeah, just a big solid kick again. But now what I do is to try and like, basically, it can change a track so much by opening battery and just flicking through kicks. Literally just as the track's playing like that, you can play it and you just go onto your battery and flick through. I'll show you it in the next project. But like I do that now with hi-hats, everything, because I used to just, like I said, have my favourite ones, drag them in, and it just gets boring. Your track's always like, obviously the idea is different, but you've always got the same drums, so it's just boring, do you know what I mean? Whereas if you dig deep and really try and find like new hi-hats, different sounds, the way I've started doing that now is with Batsy, because you can just flick through your samples while the track's playing underneath. And for me, it's amazing. Honestly, I'd recommend it to anyone. Like, this track, Back in Time, was a single that I made for Size Records, and I really wanted to make like a standout track. I had this idea of the drop, which for me works well in clubs and like a festival, so I'll just play this now quickly, but I think the special part about this track is the vocal and the last drop, so we'll get into that now. So we've got the main synths here, which are a bit crazy because when I made this, this was from an old computer. Like I've had to back it up because that old computer crashed, and that was the one that I'd done all my tracks on. So this is an old project, it's not the final version. I remember I changed this H delay to a Sound Toys, so it was a lot better delay. This one's a bit messy, but yeah. So here we've just got this synth, which is just nothing special. Some compression. Just taking out some of the sharp if you listen to there. Like I was saying before. See, they're horrible frequencies that you don't need, and that's what I do, I try and cut them out. So like you were saying there, Tony, these the extra loops that I've got here, so these are all the perks that I've added, well, hi-hats and stuff. So that's just a simple, don't even know what that is. So yeah, just adds energy. Then I've got this, which, because it was a bit too crazy, I took some of the highs out just to strip it back a bit. Nothing special. Added like the saturation plugin that I was saying before, FF Saturn. For some reason, see, it's not doing much here, but this is like there's some like for your drums, mastering, saturation. So it's a boss plugin. Like, I'd recommend it to anyone. Just added a bit of sidechain to them. That's just a simple layered clap, nothing special. See, that's just got a bit of sample delay on it. I don't know, does anyone here use Logic? Or you all like able? Yeah, Logic. I think a lot of people don't like it, but I love the stereo width that you can get off using sample delay. I think it's one of the best, like, standard plugins you can get from Logic. Like, literally just to get it to pan into ears and get the stereo width in your track, I literally just pan some sound left, pan some right. I think, like, a lot of the times synths, I use it on synths, but not like the main melodies. I'll do layers. Do you know why? Never the main ones.
How much of Logic do you use in your work? Do you use Logic in, like, on the desk and stuff as well?
Yeah, I use Logic all the, like, yeah. I never produce on desks. I just make music on laptop now. Yeah, that's all.
That's your platform always, Logic.
Yeah. I mean, I know a lot of guys that I've been making music with on Logic have switched to Ableton because they say it's easier.
That's what I'm asking,
Yeah, but I mean, for me, it's just like, I don't know, I'd make it on this, and I think for me to take the time to learn Ableton, that's valuable producing time for me, do you know what I mean? So I'd rather just stick to what I know and just keep doing it, so. But yeah, so that's the first drop. I mean, it's pretty simple. Like, once again, the kick clap, just simple kick clap. But the thing that I really like about this track is obviously the atmosphere, the break in the chorus and stuff. Like I say, this isn't the finished version, so that's why it sounds different if you listen on Beatport or whatever. It's I remember I added a few more bass lines and some more leads on this, but just the basic, the bass is here. So the interesting one about this is that it starts off quite aggressive like this. The bass is and then what I've done is, even though it doesn't sound too great, because I used, obviously if I was in Ableton, for example, I could have used, back then, I could have used, do you know, is it the sampler where you can just change the key? But when I made this track, I was in Logic 9, and obviously we didn't have any way of doing that in a sampler, so I had to use Waves sound shifter. So that's why when I play this, so that was the first drop. When I play the second, you can hear, like, it's not clean, listen. When it changes. But I mean, it worked, like, in terms of, I know it's not nowhere near as good as the Ableton, or even the new Logic now, the way you can transpose. Like, the new transposing Logic's great, but back then when I made this, it was using, like, the sound shifter, so the quality's not that great. So I layered it with a new bass, which I haven't got in this one because it was on the old computer. But yeah, this track, again, it's pretty simple. Like, the solid foundation is made by the kick, the snare, and the bass. So if I play them together, let me just mute the snare. If I play where's the bass, sub lows, here we go. So if I play these together, this is what makes the track, basically the foundation of it. I'm just trying to see, what have I done it here? Yeah. Yeah, so with them, the bass lines on this, a lot of people ask me like how you, obviously the tracks that I'm showing you now are quite melodic, so they're not really like festival, like bangers as so-called. Like someone asked me before how you do certain like, you know, the heavy drops or whatever. I think the key to that is getting the mixture between the low end and the energy of the highs. They've got to like kind of like play off each other, you know. So with this one, the lows are doing a lot of the work. And like in that last track, I had like 9 layers. In this one, I've only got 2. Obviously, I've got the basses which are playing the energy, like here. They're more leads. So with the actual sub and like the bass, I've got 2 basses. One's like playing, which is cut off at 45 hertz, which is this one. And then below that, we've got the sub, which is playing the real low melody. And that's the one that really does damage to the dance floors. But as you can see here, it's just literally a Logic's EX24 stock standard with a bit of processing. So if anyone's trying to do a sick sub bass and you use Logic, I'd literally just swear by the EX24 standard preset, just a bit of a low cut and some sidechain. And that's like what you can get out of it. So it's amazing, really. But yeah, is there any questions, by the way? No, I don't. I literally just opened it up. I mean, the attack is right down. The attack's right down. Decay's right down. Release is right down. Sustains up. That's all that I've done, and I think I just hide it up the volume because it's quite low when you first open it. But that's literally all I've done. The only other thing that I have done is I've sent the sub and the kicks to a bus, which I don't really do that anymore. I don't know why I've done it in this track. Every track's different, obviously, but there's nothing special about them though, to be honest. I just used I was watching a Roger Sanchez tutorial, and he must have shown his compressor, so I must have copied that. And yeah, just some processing on that. That's it really. Apart from that, the rest of the track, I mean, the leads super simple. Let me just play the leads. To be honest, I don't know if there's anything more about this track that I could show you. It's just the leads, the bass, kick, and of course the effects, which we spoke about in the last track. I think the only other thing that I could say was on the leads. I think this is harmonies, isn't it? Where is it? I think we've done some processing on the lead here. So yeah, on leads, I like to obviously take all the lows out and boost the highs. I've just changed that one. Yeah, I like to boost the highs because obviously the leads, to get that energy, I'd say energy is always, the bass gives the low, like, you know, the body of the track, but the energy is always coming from the highs, so the hi-hats, synths, whatever. So what I like to do is, if I find a lead, I like to always try and boost a bit of the high end. Just for me, that's how I manage to get the energy in the track. Obviously, hi-hats help with that. So as soon as you have leads and you play them with hi-hats, it just straight away you've got energy with a kick, like what. So yeah, I think if you're looking for energy in tracks, you can always boost highs. Just be careful though, because obviously I've boosted highs far too much in tracks, and then it's a nightmare having to go back through, do the whole track again to get the energy. But another good plugin that I would recommend for leads is the Maserati from Waves. I don't even know what it is. It's like a guitar amp or whatever. But whenever I put it on leads or something, sometimes it can really just make them stand out. Like I'll show you without it, and then. like that's a good one if you're trying to get a lot of energy or get a lot of distortion on the leads, but not too much. Then I'd swear by that plugin. I use it quite a lot, to be honest. What else can I show you here? Obviously, we've got the reverb. I like to use reverb buses, so I'll send pretty much everything that needs reverb to a bus. So I don't know which bus this is. See, I've got loads of different ones here. Wait there. Best way to do it's on the mixer. Yeah, so reverb. What's this? Okay, that's not that one. So there'll be another one somewhere. Where is it? Don't know why that's not. Yeah, I don't know why it's not playing, but basically I like to send leads to reverb bus, so then that way you get the same reverb on all your leads, you know, so it sounds like they're all in the same room or same hall or whatever. And obviously low cut them, so another good reverb is this one, the Valhalla vintage reverb. And like this reverb, straight away as soon as you open it up, it just sounds amazing. So let me just show you on this synth. Like for example this one, I think this has already got reverb on it, but this reverb's like one that I use all the time. Like I said, this project's an old project, so I haven't used it in this one. But just to show you how I do the bus, the lead, where is it here? Where is it? There it is. Yeah, so to show you how I do the reverb bus, I basically just put a reverb, which in this case I've used the Valhalla Room, I'll use this one. Put a reverb on the channel that you're sending the buses to. And then I'd low cut them just to get rid of them low frequencies. And in this case, I've put an overdrive on it, which is, it's a distortion, but I'm kind of using it as like a compressor, you know, just to get the reverb signal sitting at a certain peak. I want it to kind of be not squashed, but quite like compressed. And then I've just sidechained that because obviously I'm using it on synths which are in the drop. So these are the sidechains that I like to use as well. I know a lot of people have been asking me what sidechain I use, and to be honest, there's not like a certain one that I swear by. Like lately I've been actually using a compressor, you know, just sent to a ghost kick like note. I find that's like, it isn't as clean as like an LFO tool or whatever, but sometimes that's like the sound that you want to go for. But for people who are looking just to try and make house music or progressive house or whatever, or like EDM, I'd recommend the LFO tool any day because you can literally just draw it in for your sound. So if I just quickly open the one of these leads up with the kick, where is it here? So this sound, for example, I think it's already got, yeah it is. Yeah, so perfect example. This sound, where is it? So just to get that to dip behind, I like to use quite a small sidechain like this one here. And obviously you can bring it right down just to get it. So this is just kind of like a dry and wet. So this is fully dry and then that's fully wet, you know, with the signal. So I think that's a good sidechain to use. Is there any questions about this project before I move on, just to show you the battery? Well, to be honest, I never used to, but obviously as I've progressed, I've got to know a lot more vocalists, because when I first started, trying to find a vocalist which was like worth the time, if that makes sense, because they are hard to find, good singer-songwriters, good vocalists. I didn't really bother with it. I used to just use remixes or stems or try and find samples, which again is a nightmare because trying to find a good vocal sample is hard, especially if you want to try and be able to clear it and, you know, release it. So I never used to really think it was that important, to be honest. But obviously, as I've started progressing with like career-wise, and I've networked more. Networking's probably the most important thing I've done. Like I think I've been to the last like 5 ADEs. I've been to the last Miami 3 years, you know, the Winter Music Conference. Just putting yourself in them positions. I know it costs money just to go to these places, and it is expensive. And to be honest, I used to go on my own, and my mates would be like, how can you do that, lad? How can you go to thingy on your own? It's crap, but you've got to do it. You've got to do it, because I used to be like the worst that, you know, if you go into a room, the last thing I want to do is just walk up to someone and be like, hi mate, I'm Corey, you know, blah blah blah. But as you just keep doing it, and you realise the benefits of networking, it's like it's worth it 100%. Just going to places, because you can find these vocalists who've got 50 followers, 100 followers, and they could be like the next Ed Sheeran or something. Do you know what I mean? You don't know. So it's like anyone in this room, for example. Like you could be the next, I don't know, biggest Calvin Harris, whatever. No one knows unless you actually network and you speak to them and find out what their music's like about. You know what I mean? So I think it's finding vocals at first isn't that important, because you don't need them on your track. But obviously, as time goes on and you're trying to get to certain labels, and certain labels that only release vocals, then I think with networking and obviously pursuing the career, then I think that's when it's important to find good vocals. But yeah. Well, to be honest, I had this conversation with Steve Angelo a few months back. I said to him, like, because I was listening to his album, and I was like, the vocals that you get, like, are amazing and all this. And he said to me, yeah, but sometimes too much vocals is like, it can ruin like an album or a track. So if you listen to, there's some tracks on like his album with no vocals. And for me, some of them are like standout tracks, because if you're listening to an album and you've got vocal after vocal after vocal, for me, sometimes it does get a bit boring, you know, like, it's like, oh, we're going to listen to another vocal track again. Whereas if you have like an instrumental, sometimes it's just powerful, straight to the point. I think that you can't beat that, really, can you? You can't. That's what it's about, or music. So yeah. I'm just going to jump into this project. I can't remember what this is like. Look at the name, curry, rice and chips. That's because I had it for my tea last night while I was making it. But yeah. I was watching Eric Prydz last night and just got inspired to make something kind of like Cerez D, you know, his dark techno roots. But I just want to open this one, because this is, obviously I made this yesterday, so a lot of this is like fresh, how I make, you know, the way I produce now. And as you can see here, I've got battery there, like I was saying before. And it's just amazing the way you can flick through these kicks. Like, one second. Like I was saying before, this battery plugin, honestly, it's just changed the way I produce so much. Like I just load the kick into it. So for example, here I'm using 6 out of the deadmau5 pack. And what I done when I started this project, I literally just start on number 1, make a small loop like this, and just literally flick through the kicks. So like, for me that one stood out, you know what I mean? But the way that sometimes, honestly, it's like magic moments. The way when you're just flicking through kicks, when you've got a good solid idea that you know you're happy with, just flicking through kicks, changing kicks, can honestly change the track like dramatically. So I'd recommend that to anyone. And like I said, I've been doing it here with where are they? Yeah, I've been doing it here with the hi-hats as well. Just flicking through different hi-hats, it can change the track. Make that a bit bigger. Let me just go on some other ones, like open here. Just the way these change your track, it's honestly, I love it. So yeah, I think that's like you were saying before, Tony, like you were saying before about hi-hats. I think like Batsy, just flicking through hi-hats like that is the way you can find like the perfect sample for the track, do you know what I mean? Just open up all your hi-hats. And another good thing that a lot of people do, which I don't really do, is just go to like your desktop and just name a folder, samples, and every time you find one of your like samples that works in your track, just drop it in that folder, and then that way, like I've got a hard drive with my samples on it, and it's a nightmare, to be honest. Now, if I don't take my hard drive somewhere and I want to make music, I can't because I haven't got my hard drive on me. So I think I'm going to start doing it, make a desktop folder, and every time you find a nice sample, like say you find one here, and you're like, oh, I like that one, just literally drag it into that folder, and then that way, you're starting to build your own little collection of your own sample pack, do you know what I mean? And I think that's a good way to basically keep tabs on samples and sounds. It's the way you can kind of create your own little sound as well, you know, in future, because you'll have a certain drum kit that you use all the time, certain samples, but without restricting yourself to just using one all the time, do you know what I mean? So yeah.
What with like in terms of obviously using samples to drop in and stuff, but in terms of like editing capabilities, like time stretching and stuff like that, like with Battery, but do you have to, you don't have that, I suppose?
Well, to be honest, I used to struggle with it, but to be honest, all I do now is I literally just, so say for example I wanted to stretch something, I literally bounce it in place, and now with the new Logic, so like, I don't know how I can show you here what can I really stretch here? I don't know, let me just bounce. It's not, I wouldn't recommend it for like trying to stretch stuff and, you know, like vocal stretching, because I like to just use it as kind of like a drum machine, do you know what I mean, where I just load my samples into it, and I like to use them straight kicks, straight hi-hats. If I want to sample something from Logic, like for example, I know that these effects I used in Battery, but then because I wanted to chop them and stretch them, I bounced them into place from Battery, and then I've done it here. So like, for example, these effects here, I used Battery to like locate the sound, you know, where I'm flicking through like shots. So for example, if I'm trying to find like a nice bass shot, I'll open up Battery and place it where I want to do. So say this drop here, say like I really want this bit to stand out. Say I want this to stand out, this last, you know. What I'll do is I'll use this as like a sampler in Battery. So I'll take it down to C1, even though it's A. I'll open Battery, and let's just throw in a quick tonal sound from here. Let's just up this quick. So because that's in C and this track that I'm working in is in A, I'll just take it up, take it down, sorry, 3. 1, 2, 3. Yeah, so then that should be. And the thing I like about Battery is it's got the enveloper, so obviously at the moment that's too long, it's like a long bass shot. So I can chop it using the enveloper, but if I wanted to stretch it, I could bounce it in place and then stretch it using the, so I'll do this for now, what I'll do. So that's what I'd do if I wanted a sound there, do you know what I mean? But if say I wanted to stretch that sound, what I'd do is I'd bounce it in place like this. Just delete that for now. So this is the sound that we've just made there using the sampler. And what I'd do to stretch it, I mean, it's not the best because as everyone probably knows or has heard, Logic's samplers aren't great. and Ableton's is probably the best. But if I ever need to stretch something, I literally just go like that, drag it. One sec, where is it? One sec. Just Option and just drag it. I think if that should work. No, we're there. Well, it's going to do it on purpose now, but normally I just do this. Let's see. No, it's not working. We're there. That did stretch. There we go. I think that's working. No. Yeah, I don't know. Yeah, it's not working today anyway. But it's a bass shot. But like, say I wanted to drag a long sound. Normally it works fine. With bass shots, it is hard to drag, obviously. But yeah, normally I just drag and drop. I mean, bounce it in place and then just drag it using that. But yeah. Is there any more questions before we wrap up today?
Where do you get your kicks from? Samples or you get kicks?
Well, I mean, over the amount of time, I've obviously got them sent to me, you know, from like different producers, or like say I'm collabing with someone, they'll send me kicks. But a lot of the time, to be honest, I use Vengeance a lot. I use for Vengeance for kicks. You can't go wrong, really. I mean, another one thing that I have been using a lot lately is Splice. Splice is the probably go-to thing that I use, especially if I'm trying to find, like, do you know, like when you're first trying to start a track and you need that creative spark. Like, I'll sit there and I'll just flick through. Say I've got like a nice little idea in like G minor. I'll go on Splice and I'll just type it, go on G minor, and I'll just flick through just to try and. Sometimes you hear something and it's just like, you know, just gives you that inspiration you need. So honestly, if no one's got Splice yet, I know for the raffle you're giving away thingies. Splice is honestly one of the best things. Everyone who I've spoke to, I've recommended it to, because it's honestly, it's just so easy to use these days. Like, you type in the key of your track, what you're looking for, or what genre, like, and it just comes up with lists on lists. So, but there's loads of kicks in there as well. So if you're trying to make tech house, you just go on genre, tech house, kick, and it'll come up with hundreds of them. Or if you're trying to make progressive house, go on progressive house, and it'll come up with hundreds of them. Any more questions? Yeah. Yeah, I mean, a lot of the time I do my own mix and mastering. To be honest, I've got like a master chain here. I'll show you. I've got a master chain here that I've saved, and it was from about 2 years ago, and you'll look at it and go, that's a joke. Well, in fact, that's cleared up. It was the whole thing. I used to just try and, you know, just add everything just to think like, oh, that's sick, that. But now, these days, I just use a compressor from Logic, an EQ from Logic, and a limiter from Fab Filter Bundle that I said before. And that's literally all I use now these days. But sometimes I go to Wired Masters in London. You know, if I can't get the master myself or the mix myself, and I'm just looking for that extra 10%, extra 5%, I'll speak to Wired and get what Wired mix and master like. Sorry, I couldn't hear you. The loudness war. I used to try and go for the loudness, but these days I don't think it needs to be. It doesn't need to be stupidly loud. You know what I mean? Unless you're just trying to impress your mates when you're playing it on your laptop. But I mean, if you're in a club, you can just turn it up. If you're on a radio, you just turn it up. Do you know what I mean? So I don't try. Obviously, I'm trying to get it there, but I don't want to. You know, I'm not trying to take it up and above. I don't need to. Do you know what I mean? No, not too much. No. I mean, I used to when I was. It depends on the track as well. If I'm making a club track where I'm not too bothered about it being played on the radio or played on Spotify, then I'll crank it. You know, so it is loud. And like, I made a remix a while back called Runaway by Galantis. And on that, I was like, I think the kick was peaking at like 6 dB, but it sounded good. So I was like, I'm not too bothered about that, you know what I mean? Especially for the club. But obviously if it's for the radio, then I do want it to be clean. I want it to be presentable to Spotify and like all listeners. But if I'm just trying to make a track simply just to play in sets or clubs, then most of the time I will just try and get it loud as I can. Like, so, any more questions or yeah? Spire. To be honest, it's not. You know, what I'm like kind of like 5 years behind everyone. I've got Spire and Serum, and I do like both of them. I like Silent as well. But lately, I've been using Massive. I don't know why. I just love Massive. I think this. I was listening to, is it Boys Noise, the producer, and some of the sounds that obviously he uses a lot of hardware, but I wanted to try and not copy but make similar, you know, sounds. And the only synth that I mean, a lot of people, there's preferences and stuff and opinions, but the only synth that I could get something close to that sound was Massive. So yeah, and I think it just sounds big, you know, when you play it. There's just something about it that sounds cool. Yeah, modular, yeah. They look sick, them. I've never had to go, like. But yeah. Any more questions, or? No? That's it? Sweet. Yeah.
So I've got a question as well for you.
Oh, yeah, sweet.
So in terms of back in time, to the first version you actually synthesized, did it change much? Did they give feedback that you had to change, or?
To be honest, every single track that I send out, there's always changes, but it's like, if I shown the average human who's not like a producer or a DJ, probably would just be like, oh yeah, it's the same, you know, like, it's only like stupid, like, literally bring a hi-hat up 1 dB, or, you know, something like that. Or even like when I send them, rather than me mix and mastering them, if I send them to Wired or another mastering service, sometimes the difference will be so, like, I mean, don't get me wrong, they do a really good job, but it's like, for the average human who, you know, just listens to music just to enjoy it, I don't think they would really pay attention to the actual difference. So there's obviously this, like, I remember back in time when I sent that to Steve, he wanted me to, the kick and the bass was like, because the kick's so big in that track, it was hard to get the perfect, you know, bass and kick like combination. So there was a problem with that for a while, and that took me a few days to fix. But like I said, if I shown it to my mum, she wouldn't go like, oh, that kick and bass is well better. Do you know what I mean? She'd just be like, it's the small detail that only producers or like people like yourselves would, like, you know, hear the difference. So yeah.
Awesome. Has anyone else got any questions, like other than production, any questions for Corey on his career or lifestyle or anything before we shoot up? Just Corey chips you.
Nah, that was a one-off there. Been trying to be good lately.
Awesome. Well, can we give Corey a big massive round of applause?
Cheers.